Welcome back to my channel. I'm in a different spot today and I got my earbuds on instead of my lav mic. We're moving a few things around, so I had to find a different recording spot. So we had another great episode of CAD Chats. This month I got to talk with Terrance Cook of Ascot's father. He is a menswear designer, textile artist, and all-around wonderful person. Take a look at some of the highlights from our chat.
So my name is Terrance Cook. I'm a fashion designer, menswear designer, textile designer, CEO of Ascot's father. So how I got started in the industry, I studied fashion. I'm from Arkansas. I studied fashion back home. And once I finished school in Arkansas, I moved to New York in 2009. Then I eventually, at the time, the economy was very bad, so there was no jobs opening in the market. So I eventually started working in retail, just knowing more about fashion, and then being in the New York capital, the fashion capital in New York City. And so after that, I eventually started taking classes at FIT. I studied menswear and I studied textile design. And right after I finished menswear, I had an opportunity to freelance design with Ralph Lauren. And then I also did some design gigs for Lance End. Then after that, I got an opportunity to work with Joseph Abou as his assistant designer, designing sports jackets, dress shirts, ties, and pocket squares. And that's when I really fell in love with dress furnishings. And so eventually, in 2021, I launched Ascot's father, started designing Ascots and pocket squares. When I was working at Ralph Lauren, and I worked with the Purple Label team, and that's when I discovered the Ascot for the first time. It was a very unique piece. So like, oh, this is nice. And so after that, I started working with Joseph Abou, and I ran into the Ascot again in his closet. So, oh, there goes the Ascot again. So I visibly took his Ascot and wore it to a wedding and got a lot of compliments. I use Adobe Illustrator the most. With Ascot's father, I design a lot of repeat prints and patterns using Adobe Illustrator. And then I'm a designer for another brand as well. My full-time job, I usually I design flats. So a lot of flat sketches, jackets, outerwear, t-shirts and things like that. So at work, I do a lot of flats, but with Ascot's father, I do a lot of prints.
Have you ever used Photoshop for your prints?
Yes, I have. I use Photoshop a few times. As a matter of fact, on this last collection I did for Italy, I used Photoshop mostly.
So you go back and forth, but you're mostly in Illustrator?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so like out of 100%, like 65% in Illustrator, I would say like a good 30 in Photoshop, and like 5%, sometimes I create repeat using Procreate.
Yes. Procreate. Another Procreate user, y'all.
Yeah, I love it. Especially on the bus on my way to work. So with Procreate, two things. I love it because sometimes I design a sketch offhand and you can send it to your email right away, whether you're on a bus, anywhere, at a coffee shop. And the second thing, I love sitting on a bus and sketching, and I get a lot of compliments from people who are sitting over me like, oh wow, you did that? So it makes me feel like a superstar. So, but what I get out the most, because I get to see my artwork piece, and and I get to once I send it to a factory, a mill, like when I'm working with my Ascots, I get I make the colors, they send me the strikeoffs, I get to approve it first. It allows me to make decisions. I would say in Illustrator, the transparency tool, because when I'm doing a certain print, and I use it, and I create this motif again, but in a different color, and I put it in the backdrop, and I create a transparency with it, and it gives it a cool look, because it's like fading out in the background. The transparency makes it look very, like give it a cool feeling. And then with Photoshop, there's a few things I like about Photoshop. One thing I like is when you use the lasso tool, you get to select different pixels. You get to select one color, then it select all the colors. One thing about Photoshop that I like that Illustrator doesn't have, like once you upload a library, it stays there in Photoshop once you open Photoshop the next day. But in Illustrator, you have to keep uploading your Pantone library.
Yeah. There's actually a way around that. I'll have to tell you how to do that.
Nice.
But yeah,
Creative free design. Nice.
There's a way around that. Yes, I know. And how about Procreate? Anything?
Procreate. Oh yes, everything. The spotlight with
of course
fans around. No, but one thing I like, they give you different pencil drawing options. Like you can select a different pencil sketch. It makes it look like a real pencil, like you're sketching with a real actual pencil. or you can
Oh,
change it to an ink you can change to an ink pen as well. Then you have like different textures on the textile library you can take out. You can put, like, if you're doing a certain denim, you can give it like a certain twill vibe, anything like that. So that's one thing I like about Procreate.
See, every time somebody describes it, it sounds like something I would like, and then I open it up and I don't.
One thing I can't say, when I was in your pencil, from pencil to production, when we had to do things crunch time, Procreate came in handy. So it's I can say that it's like, say for instance, for designers out there, if you have a meeting, a last minute meeting, you know, you got to put a sketch together for that meeting. You can always pull out Procreate and put up a sketch, and once you finish, you can text it to yourself, or you can just show it right there in the meeting. So it comes in handy with that. I would say the most challenging thing, it goes back to this last collection. It was an experience because I collaborated with someone and we had to do some vintage prints. One thing, like, I know you learn about vintage motifs, you have to clean them up, and it takes a while. You know, and I didn't know whether I was gonna finish on time or not, because you had to send it to the factory first to get it approved, approve the colors, and then, you know, they send the strike off back, and then they send it the bulk yardage, and then making the Ascots. So the most challenging thing was like cleaning vintage prints in a short amount of time. You know, but one thing I learned from it helped me to learn more about speed and be accurate and just really focus.
Yeah, that can be really, really interesting. I know one of the things that when I was tutoring textile designers, the cleanup was something that they always were very, very challenged with. And it was one of their first questions was, how do you do it quickly? I'm like, you don't. You just make sure you have enough time to do it.
Right. So I'm finishing up my fall 23 collection. As I mentioned, I'm bringing out neckerchiefs now. So I'm doing Ascots, pocket squares, and I'm doing 2 different neckerchief designs. And I'm working on a few collaborations. And I said I was in Italy, so I met with a few brands there. And from Paris, I'm traveling to Paris in September to work with those brands and talk about collaborations in the making. And I'm also doing an event there as well. And I'm also launching my first dinner jacket as well through Ascot's father for the event in September. So it's a lot is happening, but you know, but it's great. It's, you know, it's helping me, it's challenging me, it's testing my design ability as well.
Just a great person and super talented designer. And he also mentioned it during our chat, but make sure you catch him next month on season 3 of From Pencil to Production. Episode 1 premieres on Thursday, August 17th. Just learning. Thanks for watching today's video. If you want to listen to our full chat, you can head over to the 383 Design Instagram page. Also, if you want to start using digital fashion design, click the link in the description to sign up for one of my courses. And make sure you check out more of the videos on this channel to get you started. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time.